Hey, 7th grade. I am not sure. Oh, sorry about that. I had the little, there we go. Today what we're going to do is we are going to get into multiplication and division. So today is 9, is it the 12th? The 11th. I think it's the 12th. So we are going to do multiply and divide rational numbers. And so we're going to divide this up into 3 days because we're going to do integers, decimals, and fractions. And I'm not sure why it is not focusing. There we go. And I'm going to be on page 15 and 16. Okay. All right, so when we are multiplying and dividing, today we're going to talk about is integers. And you were given a blue sheet that looks like this. But before we get to that, what I want to do is talk about, I want you to put this on the left, and I want you to draw a big old triangle at the top, because whenever you are multiplying or dividing rational numbers, this is a way to always remember, put a minus, and a plus. Okay? So when we are multiplying or dividing, because remember the signs, we have negatives and positives. So when we are multiplying or dividing, no matter which way you go, if you go that way, a positive times a negative will always give you a negative. Okay? But a negative times a negative will always give you a positive. So whenever you have in integers, if you have the same sign, it will always be positive. When you have a different sign, it will always be negative. So that's really important. Okay, so the first page, put in your journal. Okay, and this kind of reiterates what we were doing. Whenever you multiply or divide the two numbers, if the signs are the same, then the answer is positive. And you can review, there's some examples, and remember that we can show multiplication with a dot or parentheses. All of those mean multiplication. If the signs are different, then the answer is negative. Okay, and remember, if you do not have a sign, it is always positive. Okay? And really, the lesson is so easy because really it's just you're practicing your multiplication is all you're doing. So both of these will go in your journal, and I'm going to do the first couple ones for you. So if you had a factor of 1, that means that we need to multiply times a negative 18 to get negative 18. Okay? If I had a 2, I would have to multiply it by, that's right, a negative 9. If I had a 3, I'd have to multiply it times a negative 6. So this is great practice with your factors, as well as realizing if you have a positive number, it could be, I'm going to let you do the 4 there. If I wanted to get a positive 40, I could say a negative 1 times a negative 40. I could also say 2 times 20, right? So all you're doing, everybody will have different answers. It's a great way to practice what factors, if one of your factors is 4, what would the other one be? Oh, it doesn't go in that easy, does it? Or, I tell you what, actually, you know what they did? I use these numbers. You can actually, it's just put in order. You can pick any numbers that will add up. So it's 9 times 2, 6 times 3, 18 times 1. What else is there? We may not have another one. Yep, 2, 6 times 3. Oh, that's going to be it. So, but each one of these, I want you to practice. This is going to be your product. Okay? All right, on the back sheet, all I want you to do is practice. So we have a, oh, there it is. So just a way to practice, have a little fun, okay? You're going to come up with your own. So if you notice, and these are both going to be glued into your journal. So I have a -6, and I'm going to divide it by, all right, -4. Okay, what is, I don't want you to do the math because sometimes these, the numbers are not going to be easy to work with. Okay, so what I want you to do, yeah, I don't really like that. So let's do it this way. So if you notice I did spin 1 was a -6, and then I did divided by, my spin 2, my spin 3 was a -4. Your answer is obviously going to be a positive number. So you don't have to do the math because you're going to get into decimals. Extra challenge, if you'd like to do that, you can. Now if you notice, one January day, this is an example, and I want you to do this for the class for tomorrow when you come in. Have this ready. If you notice, the low temperature was -8, and over a period of 6 hours, the temperature rose 4 degrees per hour. After 6 hours, what was the temperature? Okay, so what would you do? I want you to think about that. If you start at -8, okay, what do I need to do with the 4 degrees and the 6? 6 hours, 4 degrees per hour. We know, I know that was -8 was my start. Okay, and I'm actually going to draw, and you have that vertical, so I'm going to put -8, and remember here's a 0, and we get, as we rise on the temperature, it's going to get into the positive. So it rose, in other words, the temperature is going to go up. So -8 plus, and it was 6 hours times 4 degrees per hour. So what I need to do is it's -8 plus 24. And you box from the back. The sign would be positive, negative. The 8 is a negative, 24 is a positive. Who wins? The positive by how many? So it's 24 minus 8 equals 16 degrees. So your temperature would be 16 degrees after 6 hours. And what they, kind of backtracking, I kind of skipped these two, and I'm going to put my work is right down here. Whoops, sorry, plus 24. So I need to know how much, or I needed to know, use past tense, how much did temperature rise? And that's because of the multiplication. So I needed to do 6 times 4. Okay? So please, what I want you to do, finish the spin. Go ahead and trim all of this out, and I want you to put it, I'm going to do mine, put this page after it's been trimmed, because otherwise it's not going to fit in your journal. Put it on your left, and then this page on the right. Okay? Your homework tonight, or today, is pretty straightforward, is practicing the multiplication and division of integers. And you just have to remember the triangle. So actually this is really easy, something that should not be a hard assignment, okay? Please put your name, and it is due Tuesday when you walk into my classroom. See you tomorrow.